Hello and welcome to CRA TV, where we talk about politics, policy, and politicians, all from a conservative perspective, right here in the great state of California. So please take a moment, like and share the program, and encourage your friends to do the same. Now, first thing I want to point out to you is we are a membership organization. We are, in fact, California's oldest, largest, and fastest growing conservative grassroots organization. Folks, we focus on helping to elect conservatives, people who believe in the right to life, who believe in the Second Amendment, who believe in limited government and lower taxes. Those are the folks that we work to help get elected to office, all the way down from dog catcher all the way up to President of the United States. Just so you know, Ronald Reagan once referred to the California Republican Assembly as the conscience of the Republican Party. So it's important that we work together in order to help elect like-minded conservatives. But folks, look, there's no us without you. So we need you to be a part. We need you to join. We need you to follow the join link in the description of this video. And from there, you can find a chapter that you want to become a member of, one that's close to you, or you can become a member at large. Either way, we want you to become a member of the organization. We need you to become a member of the organization. I always like to say that if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Don't be part of the problem. Become a member today. Next, want to encourage you. We have an event, the big event that's coming up, the California Republican Party Convention. It's going to be taking place in Anaheim, California on April 22nd through the 24th. Now, CRA members are going to be there. And what we're hoping to be able to do is to get as many CRA members there to be associate delegates. That means that you get to participate and you'll be a part of a lot of the stuff that'll be going on there. It's a great way to show support for the organization. In the event that someone needs to hold a proxy or something like that, you'll be able to do that. So here's what we need you to do. There's a link, once again, in the description to this video. Follow the link in that description on how to become an associate delegate. Read that article, reach out, and we'll do what we can to help you become an associate delegate to the upcoming California Republican Party Convention. Folks, it's important that we are there and that we show out because, as I like to say, we are the Republican wing of the Republican Party in the state of California. So it's kind of important that we're there. So anyway, make sure you guys follow that and follow that link and go there. Finally, we have another bill that we are following as a part of our Take Action program. That's where we make it easy for you to be able to make your voice heard on key legislation impacting the state of California. The bill that we are addressing today, or talking about today, is going to be SB 1497. This is a measure that would require vaccination testing, or not vaccination testing, require COVID testing ongoing for our kids. Now, folks, if you've followed the science, you already know that kids are the least affected by COVID. Not only that, we also know that the most recent strains of COVID-19 tend to give you a lot of either false negatives or false positives. So we really don't understand why we're spending millions of dollars or billions of dollars putting together an invasive testing program. It's all, quite frankly, we believe, probably there to scare you. So let's just let the folks know that this is not something that we support. There's, once again, as I always like to say, a link in the description to this video. Follow that link. You'll get there. You can read all about the bill. And then you can also send a message. Now, there's already a pre-written message there. But if you want to personalize it, make it your own, you can, in fact, do that and send it. And it will go to the very committee that's about to be voting on this particular piece of legislation. So please take a moment, take action today, and then share that page with everyone that you can so that they'll know that they can take action as well. All right, let's get on to today's interview. This is day 3 in a row, folks. I know you're used to us only doing this every week, but there's a lot of stuff going on. We've got a lot of really awesome statewide conservative candidates running for statewide office. And one gentleman that I'm very, very happy to introduce to you, because he's running for Superintendent of Public Instruction, is a guy who I think, once again, all of you will like. Everyone enjoyed his speech there at the California Republican Assembly Convention. A phenomenal individual with a phenomenal story. And with that, I would like to welcome to the program Mr. George Yang.
How are you doing, CRA members and all the audience out there? I'm George Yang. I'm running for Superintendent of Public Instruction. and I'm running against the incumbent that's really corrupt, and I'm running to protect my two kids.
I will tell you now. So I will tell you it's funny because first of all it's important to understand that Superintendent Thurman is bought and paid for, owned wholly by the unions. Period. Plain and simple. There is no second. There is no questioning it. Now you talk about his corruption. I know it's more than just the unions, but talk a little bit about what inspired you to decide to run for Superintendent of Public Instruction.
Well, the thing that really inspired me is all those volunteers who are out getting signatures for school choice propositions. So I'm one of them, and I'm on a lot of radios, Cantonese, Mandarin, talking about school choice, how that can help revolutionize the way that we do education in this state, and especially how you empower parents so that we don't have to be, have our kids indoctrinated, and we can find those programs that fits our needs.
So let's start now. I would just tell you, first of all, starting off, I'm a school board member. I've been a school board member for 17 years. And one of the biggest concerns that I've had in particular with Tony Thurman was during the COVID shutdown, there was you heard absolutely nothing coming out of the Superintendent of Public Instruction's office. Nothing, there was no conversation there was no questions about why are we closing our schools? Where's the data? Where's the facts?
Radio
Why are we
silence.
keeping them closed? I mean, how would you have handled that situation differently when the governor comes down with a mandate saying we're going to shut down the schools? If you were in his seat at that time, how would you have handled that situation?
That's a very good question. I know a lot of people who are on school boards and also people who are very much in education for a long time as a profession. And one of the people that I talk to is that for kids that are under 4 years old, first of all, they're not that much affected by the virus itself, but they are affected in the sense that once we close schools, those kids lost a year, now 2 years of education, especially for kids that are being under fourth grade, which is my son's age. That structured classroom environment is very important, especially for boys. They need to be in class to learn because otherwise they are staying at home. Even if your parents are at home to just sit next to them, they are very easily distracted. So first of all, I would talk to people who understands not just the need, not just healthcare issue, but also education issue. The lockdown of schools is really not something that's good for kids. There are kids who are naturally have stronger immunity against COVID. And if you look at the data, most kids who have it, unless you have some other conditions like diabetes and whatnot, you would have been just fine. And by the way, my family all have COVID in February, and both of my kids have very little symptoms, and they are not vaccinated, and they do just fine. So I think we have overreacted when we close down schools. It actually caused more harm than good. And so next time, we need to give more school district members like yourself more local control as to what you guys want to do at a local level.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, is giving the locals a choice as to exactly what it is that they want to do. Once again, I just found it odd that he didn't bother to ask, okay, what's the data? What's the science? I mean, if you're saying we're keeping our schools closed, shouldn't we have, something? Shouldn't you be able to tell us, who's getting it, how they're getting it, who's winding up at the hospital, how sick are they getting? That's all information that we should have been getting, but we never got. And then we never got it even when we were looking to reopen the schools. Now, one of the other big issues that we're dealing with has to do with the indoctrination of our children. And I know that that's something that's a very, very big deal for you. What are some of the dangers you see taking place right now in public education when it comes to that indoctrination? And how would you address it?
That's a very good question. I come from China in 1992, so I've been in this country for 30 years. And one of the things that I'm very alarmed to see is that many schools are pushing three narratives that are really wrong and very dangerous. Number one, they keep telling kids that America is bad. That's why they have CRT. And that's why they have kids, young people, will go out, for the protests, BLM protests, go out to San Francisco, tear down the statue of Francis Scott Keys, as well as Ulysses Grant. Ulysses Grant is the general and the president who destroyed the Confederacy, destroyed slavery. He's the second Republican president, and yet his statue is turned down in San Francisco. We need to stop that. We need to talk about American success stories. We need to talk about Constitution, learn more about the Constitution, so that our kids can understand that this country has its faults, but it's the best out there in the whole world today. Second false narrative is that they are telling people that capitalism is bad, so that the rich will get richer, the poor will have no chance. That is also false. They're telling kids to hate the people who are rich. We used to look at people who have worked hard and become successful and look up to those people and learn from them. Now you hear those rhetoric from the left say 1%ers, people are too rich, they need to pay their fair share. That's very much communist propaganda that I have seen in China. The last thing that they've been pushing to our kids, false narrative-wise, is that all solutions come from government. We have to demand government action for this, demand government action for that. We need to let kids understand that they should be able to face. There are problems in our cities, in our towns. Those are things that we need to do locally. We need to fix those problems locally. We should not go to the federal government or state government for one-size-fits-all solutions, because those solutions, like we have talked about earlier, usually does more bad than it does good. So we need to do that.
Kind of crazy, but that is in fact the case, is that solution, or as Ronald Reagan likes to say, one of the biggest lies ever told was, I'm from the government and I am here to help.
Exactly. And also Ronald Reagan said we're only one generation away from losing freedom, and we have to fight every generation to defend it. We are
definitely pretty close to that right now. Finally, now, one of the challenges that we deal with in California is everyone keeps saying that we underfund education. But one of the things that they fail to mention is the fact that we're one of the few states where actually our facilities are funded differently. They're funded outside of the traditional educational system. So when you put together funding for facilities and funding for education, we're probably middle of the road, if not like 20. We're pretty middle of the road when it comes to funding for education. But I don't believe that the amount of money we spend on education is the problem. What would you say that it's funding, or would you say that it's something else? Is that the kind of the core with the challenges that have basically put us at the bottom every single year in terms of quality of education?
I think you hit it right on the head, because we actually don't have a funding problem. The new budget allocated, believe this, $112 billion for K-12 education. In contrast, the Department of Justice, the Attorney General's office in California, have a budget of $1.5 to $2 billion. So the budget really dwarfs any other function in California. Now, the issue right now is that we have too many woke organizations getting their hands in the cookie jar, so to speak. For example, let's say a school district comes to the superintendent and asks for, say, $100,000 for textbooks. The superintendent will say, you know what, I'm going to give you $300,000, but you're going to spend $200,000 of that to buy a textbook from, let's say, Craig, a friend of mine, who will tell you that CRT is the best thing out there. You have to have those textbooks. There are a whole lot of waste out there. The other thing is that our superintendents are paid a whole lot. The average is $300,000. The reason of that is that incumbents or insiders want to perpetuate a system where their insider knowledge become valuable. So right now, you can have a successful CEO and he or she would not be eligible to become a superintendent, because you have all these alphabet soup agencies, you have to have all these processes that are unique to the school system. We need to look into that and say, are those really necessary? Now, I am an IT guy, so I go into companies and ask them what they do now so that I can make a better system. So my job going into the superintendent's office is to ask each funding request, ask each process that requires funding right now, and ask the question, why are we doing this? Tell me why. Explain this to me. Just because you have done this for the last 20 decades or 10 decades, well, maybe not 20 decades, the last 20 years, the 20 years, 30 years, just because you've been doing it for 20 years does not make it right. We have to challenge each and every spending and make sure that it still meets our needs.
Well, that just makes too much sense, sir. So, okay, let me just ask you just real quick. If folks want to get behind you, if they want to support your campaign, how can they do so?
Well, first, I want to shout out to all the delegates going to the convention. Please help me and endorse me for the CRP convention. The second thing is that my website is yang2022.com, not Yang2020, yang2022.com, yang2022.com. Sign up, volunteer. I do need your help, and this is a statewide campaign. I need all the help I can get.
All right, folks. You guys, you've been given your marching orders. You know exactly what you need to do. Please get out there. Please support George as he runs for Superintendent of Public Instruction. There are a few positions, quite frankly, at the statewide level that are more important. And George, we're happy to have you there. And thank you for being willing to step up and fight for our children in California.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, George Yang. All right, well, hey, that's going to be it for this episode of CRA TV. We very much appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encourage your friends to do the same. Remember to tell them about the California Republican Assembly. We are the conscience of the Republican Party. We'll talk to you again real soon.